Hello and welcome back to DriveDriverDriven. I'm Humble and we're back on the Blunicorn rebuild project. This time we're going to make some things permanent for the first time. Let me show you what we're working on. Alright, so this hot mess is what the wiring looks like now that it's more or less done. And by that I mean almost done. So things are roughly loomed. Don't mind these CAN bus wires for the aim. I'll get to that in a little bit. But what today's project is to actually pull the loom out of the car and then actually wrap it up, loom it proper. Because we're not going to be adding any wires. We're not going to be removing any wires. All the circuits are set. The Motec is programmed. And the dash and the ECU are 90% of the way. We're not going to be, we don't need to add any more wires or subtract any more wires, which is what I was waiting for to get taken care of this. There's a few things that may change, like the location of our CAN pad here. I'm not sure if I want it to sit on this side or if I want it to sit in the middle, so I left a kind of a long branch for that. Our key is going to sit here where it did previously. And then everything else is pretty much set in its location. The ECU and the CAN bus controller for our exhaust gas temperature sensors are all going to live in the passenger side pod. I'm not really happy with that, but because of how the looms work, it just kind of has to live there. And that's pretty much it. Like, what I'm going to do is pull the harness out of the car and set it out on the ground and start wrapping everything up. Put heat shrink on the things that need it and anything that's exposed on the branches for the engine bay and not internal into the car or like inside or behind panels, etc. Just to protect those branches. But otherwise, yeah, I'm going to pull that out and get going. forward a little bit. It's the next day. Getting that all wrapped up yesterday took a little bit of time, and then I had to run some errands. Mostly I had to drop some parts off at the machinist and then pick those parts up a short while later and drop them off at a new friend of mine, Spool and Phil on Instagram, who was able to weld them up for me. And let me show you what he did. So these are the steering parts. So this end sits like this, and it goes between our power steering motor and the rack assembly. Phil just did an awesome job taking this up, did a weld around the edge, and then a couple of plug welds to make sure this thing doesn't spin, because on this side, this is where all of the torque from the motor is applied. So I'm probably not going to leave it raw like this. I think I'm going to just hit it with a little bit of paint, at least up in this area, because down here it fits into a bushing. And then Phil also did this side, which I'll definitely hit with some paint, but this end goes here, and that is where the wheel mounts. And this didn't need a crazy amount, but he did a good job, again, welding around the edge, putting a couple plug welds in there. So this thing is held pretty fast. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to see near as much torque. You know, this is just on the steering input side. So what I did need is for the distance to be correct, and the wheel is closer to the driver by, I think it's about 1/2 centimeter, give or take. Not a whole lot, but position-wise, it's just about where the old wheel used to be, and that's close enough for me. If anything, I would like the wheel to be a little bit closer to where I sit in the cabin, so this only helps a little bit. I have our harness all wrapped up, looking nice. I was going to put a bunch of heat shrink around it, but I just don't have time to de-pin all the connectors, put all the heat sheath on it, and then put it all back in, because the clock is ticking, unfortunately. And while I want this harness to look nicer than just with Tessa tape, it'll have to do for now. And by now, I mean forever. I don't know that I'll want to pull this back out after the body is on. I probably can, I just won't want to. As far as the routing, our main harness here has our ground points on each side of the dash. It sits behind the dash attached to the dash bar. It runs down the side here, down underneath, and then it runs along with the clutch cable on this side, and then forward all the way up underneath, up to the front. Our branch pack here isn't anchored down yet because the fuel tank needs to slip under here and get riveted to the frame. And then I haven't terminated our lines for our clamshell warning and our oil pump, and our oil fan, just because those aren't installed yet, and I don't know where they're going to end up just yet. Moving around to the passenger side, this mess is still from our ECU for the engine. That hasn't been finalized, just the wiring harness. So we have our termination plugs here for things that are going to go to the back of the car on this side, the ECU, etc. Our CAN connections, everything like that. Down in here, on this side, everything comes down nicely around the AC, everything that the AC needs. And that's that. That's the wiring harness. Next for wiring, I actually need to tackle now the motorsport harness, which is these loose wires you see around here. I'm still waiting on a couple deliveries, but what's going to happen is I have this channel expansion hub, which is going to have one channel going over here to our brake pressure sensor for the front. It has another line that runs to the rear, and then it accepts this line that goes to temperature sensor on the radiator for our output temperature. Following around to the CAN expansion hubs, which is these guys here. There is a temperature sensor for brakes. There's one for the tire temperature, and eventually there's going to be a shock load sensor, but I'm waiting to install that until I find a set of shocks that I'm happy with. And then that's on all four corners. So each corner gets tire temperature, brake temperature, and eventually a shock load sensor. Moving to the back, again with the motorsport sensors, the rear gets one extra channel, which is a pitch, yaw, and roll sensor, also from Izzy Racing. So all these sensors I'm mentioning are from Izzy Racing. These are the older style tire temperature sensors. The newer ones I pointed out before, the nice sleek black ones, are about half that size now. So everything he's providing is just really kick ass. And one thing that Izzy does that I haven't seen anyone else do is, if you buy a set of these sensors from Izzy Racing, they also provide a CAN configuration for your aim dash or whatever system you're using. So it literally is plug and play. You just upload your configuration and plug all your sensors in, and then everything just works. And I am a huge fan of that. So give them all your support. Go out and buy stuff from them. Not a paid promotion, just a really, really, really happy customer. So yeah, go support those guys. Kind of a short one. I think that's going to be it today. There's going to be a lot to cover next time around because a lot is going to be happening all at once. And I'm going to try and keep up with all of it. So for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.